Today we're going to talk about how to make better mistakes. Hello, Frictionless Families. We're starting a series on tips and tricks, and this is going to be the first installment. And today, what I'd like to talk about is choosing your mistakes wisely. And what I mean by that is there's value in deciding the types of mistakes that you're going to make in advance so that when you come up with a difficult situation, you've already decided that if we're going to err on this side. For Cheryl and I, we started making mistakes parenting 20 minutes after we were released from the hospital. Michael was maybe a day old. We were on our way home driving in Dallas on 635 at about 75, 80 miles an hour, like everybody in Dallas drives. And all of a sudden, he starts screaming bloody murder. And the reality of the fact that I am a dad and I have a little screaming baby, and just the fear and the lostness that I felt about, I do not know what to do. So Cheryl is convinced at this point that Michael is starving to death and that he needs to feed right now or he's going to die. And so she asks me to pull over on the shoulder of 635 so that she can nurse him with semis passing us at 80 miles an hour. And so I said, okay, that sounds like a good idea to me. And I did. I pulled over on the corner of 635, and it never occurred to me just to drive to the next exit and maybe find a little bit more discreet place that we could nurse our son. So that was mistake number one, and we have continued to make plenty of mistakes since then. In fact, we have a running joke with my son, Michael, and we just tell him, this is Michael, we're sorry. You're our firstborn. We didn't know what we were doing. We did our best, but we'll pay for your counseling when you get older. So bottom line, you will make some mistakes. We have made a lot of them. In fact, the basis of our whole ministry was Cheryl and I realizing, boy, we've made this mistake, we've made this mistake. And since Cheryl and I are both teachers at heart, we figure, why don't we start a parenting class and just tell the people all the stuff that we did wrong so that hopefully they'll make less mistakes than we did. And let's share that. And sure enough, a little bit later, it's turned into a full-fledged ministry. So here's what we're talking about today. And the ultimate bottom line question for this is, if you're going to make a mistake, it would be good if you spend some time thinking about the type of mistake you're going to make, or in other words, what type of consequences you want. And at the very top level of that funnel really comes down to the question of, if we're going to make a mistake, are we going to over shelter our kids, or we're going to over expose our kids to things in the world? There's not a right answer to this question. There is something to be said on the one side of, if we're going to make a mistake, I don't want to expose them to something too early when they're young, and that causes all kinds of problems, puts images in their head, thoughts that they would have never possibly had at that age level, right? But they're too early to handle it. They don't know how to process it. The other side is that if you over shelter them, they have no idea what the real world is like, and you want them to know, because the world is not necessarily a kind place. And so you want them to experience some of those real problems that they're going to experience later now, while you can walk through that with them and help them process. Those are both perfectly valid stances to have. And they're going to apply in other areas. The movies that you're going to allow into your home, the type of music, the type of entertainment, those are always big ones. Dating, sleepovers, that's a big deal. So what I would encourage you to do is to start thinking now on, when these things come down, are we going to err on the side of being too sheltering or being too permissive? So this is what I like to do. I like to encourage you, first off, if you have made mistakes, and I'm going to speak about this in length later, but just the bottom line is, if you've made mistakes with a specific kid or with your entire family, address that, ask for forgiveness, specifically what it is, tell them this is what I did wrong, don't make any excuses, and then move on. I've done this a whole bunch with my kids, and they have yet to hold it against me. They say, yes, Dad, I'll forgive you. Thank you. And then the last part, I'd like to encourage you as a parent to start thinking ahead. First off, the big question is, do you want to err on the side of sheltering your kids or err on the side of walking your kids through difficult situations? Decide that stuff now, and then you'll have a funnel that you can put other questions like sleepovers, movies, entertainment, those types of things. You can put that through that funnel, and that will help you out tremendously. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope this helps you and your family to be just a little bit frictionless.